everyone. Today we will be going through a short video, a short demo of how to achieve this kind of like triggering the material change effect and in VR template. And in the future, you will be getting familiar with BluePrint and also how to create variables, materials, and etc. So let's jump into it. First of all, from the invisible object that we created, well, I would just use that as an example. You might have a lot of animation in there, but here I'm gonna use like the version without animation as an example, because if you import animation, it will include skeletons, and it might create a little bit of a you might need to do more tweaks. You can still do it, but right now, let's just export FBX, but also in the settings, make sure you, as usual, you check the copy and embed textures, but you only select mesh, and then in the animate, you untoggle the animation part. And just save it as only mesh, like this, and then you export XBX, and then you go to the content drawer, again over here, content drawer, and then just under the folder that you want to import, just drag the FBX that you want to import, and then make sure that texture materials, these are all checked. But under the animation, sometimes they will toggle this, and then you wouldn't be able to see the import button light up. So make sure to untoggle this when you're first importing your mesh, and also leave these as usual, normal, and then you hit import. And this one is the import mesh that I have. So you can see this is the object. And then what I want you to do is you will create a folder called interactable, and then uh, I'm gonna delete this one. Oh, well, actually, it's okay. And then I want you to right click, and then go to select blueprint class. So blueprint is basically like a visual sculpting, visual scripting tools in Unreal. It allows you to kind of like apply different effects and define the actions that an object would do, like define their behaviors. It's a little bit like actors. Actors are basically things that usually like actors and blueprints. That goes hand in hand. Like actors might contain blueprint component. For example, if I import, if I want my mesh that I just imported to be interactable, I could just create a basic actor, and then and then drag my static mesh under the actor. So this is my actor, and then I can also, under the mesh right now, I can add remember in the previous tutorial I talked about add a grab component. So this grab component is a component that has a blueprint class in there. So once you add it there, this object becomes grabbable. So basically, a blueprint is kind of like a script block that you can make it modular to kind of like attach to anything, and then it will do things. Like for example, as long as you attach this grab component, it becomes grabbable, and then you could also just define the whole thing as you can define the blueprint itself as a actor, and then you can also drag it in as if it's an asset. So what we're gonna do, sorry, I run on a little bit again, but I just want to explain what the concept is a little bit. So you right click, go to blueprint class, and then you select actor type. An actor is an object that can be placed and spawned in the world. So that's most of the objects in the level in the world here is an actor. So you create actor, and then I will call it BP underscore. I already have it here, but I'm gonna create another one. Changing material actor, let's say demo. You don't need to write demo on it. I'm just like for my own sake. So and then let's create another blueprint class. That's called it's called actor again. It's an actor again called blueprint BP material changing actor. Oh, sorry. Actually, I already created that. Changing material actor. Yeah. Let's call it material change trigger. This is demo for demo's sake. So what I created just now is that, but basically we need let's think about this action in terms of our goal. So our goal is that when our hands goes into this area, this trigger area, this object change its material. So in a sense that the logic is like so we can ask um, when do we change when the events change, which basically is what is the trigger. And in terms of trigger, it has two things you can consider is who is the trigger and when does the trigger turns on. And then there's an and then the end goal, which is what, which is the target, also have two elements, um, who and also when. And then in terms of the what, it also contains something about what basically. How do I get back to the tool? Oh, okay. What basically, or the effect. And then that will be related to how. So in our case, the trigger is a trigger block, is a trigger box basically, and then when to is when our hand overlap with it. And who to react is our object. And when is well, sometimes you might want to make it delayed, but here the time is exactly the same as when it overlaps. But when could also be a question of is it animated in a different ways? But right now, let's not think about it because it will involve even more scripting. And then in terms of the how, that's leave to the blueprint. Blueprint. But basically, now the logic is that we need so now this is something we need to create. This actor. Now we have these two, and then we need to figure out the blueprint. Basically, the scripting of it. Anyhow, so right now I want to create the object, And actually, I want to create a type of object that that always respond to this trigger box. So basically, I want to create um, this. For example, this grabbable actor is actually they have a template, and then like you can change the static mesh in it, but it's always going to be grabbable and have certain effects in there. So it's a good way to set up a template, um, and then you can duplicate but also customize the effect it's gonna do. So in the blueprint material trigger, this is the demo, the actor, yeah. So here you double click it, and then you can see it's empty. So this is the viewport for what this, because this is a blueprint actor, so it does have a scene, and then it's kind of like so sort of like a little world, except it's not about world, it's about this object here. And then on the left side it has component, and then it has kind of like a spreadsheet of what are the things in there. Right now it only has itself and also the default scene root, which is basically like a root, give you a coordinate, like where things are, like. And then this is kind of like give you a location that you can work off from, like an area. um so we're gonna add. So right now we are not adding specific things, rather we're defining a type of things that will exist in this class, which is exist in this template. um so we can create a static mesh. Let's just call it static mesh, or you can name it as I mean, I think static mesh is pretty straightforward. um and then yeah, so basically like that is fine. That's simple as that. So that means just this specific changing actor demo type, um it under it, it has a static mesh that also is in the center of the scene root. So oh, yeah, and then let's drag it in here. um so you can see that it also already have the static mesh component in there. So under each blueprint class actors, they can all contain multiple component. So for example, you can even add another cube or something like that. So that's totally doable. But what I want to do in this static mesh is actually so that we can actually edit the mesh here. So if you just search mesh, it also have a static mesh property, and then you can drop basically. If you go back to your mesh, and then you keep it selected, and then you click this button. Use selected assets from content browser, and then you click it. It will automatically replace the static mesh as the one that's in the content browser. And then you can still scale it accordingly. And notice that the location and scale of this static mesh is in relation to the default scene root. So basically, you can still move the scene root, and then but you can still you can move the static mesh over here, but the root, like the pivot point of the scene root, is still here. So I will just keep it relatively the same on the scene root, because I have no reason to make them offset. So now this part is done. So this will be our object. Optionally, you could go to the static mesh here, and then go to the physics, stimulate physics, and under the collision, make sure it's physics actors. And you can also optionally change the mass here, set it to different weight basically. And now if you for example, if I move this actor a little bit above, and then I go to simulate this level, you can see it just like drops onto the floor basically. but I will just keep it here right now. So yeah. Okay, so that part is done. So this will be our target that to change the material. And then let's go back to the other blueprint. I'm gonna actually create a demo folder so that I can find them a little easier. But you don't need to worry about this part. This is just for my own sake. So now this is the trigger box. So let's double click the trigger box. It also have a default root scene, but let's under the here create a box collision, and then we click this and drag this onto the default root scenes to replace it as the root for the root scene. And yeah, so like directly under the trigger box, the demo, the actor root is the box itself. And then we will create under here create a variable. So a variable is basically for those of you who have taken interactivity 1 and 2, variable is the holder for something. You can think about it as a container. I believe all of you understand that. So you create a variable and then we name it as the target mesh. Under here, under the when you click on, like, keep it clicked under the right side here, under variable type, you go here and then you search BP, basically the type of class that we just created, material changing, oh, matching trigger, actually I think it's, I'll just type demo. I think that would find it easier. Yeah, BP changing material actor. Yeah. So that is the material. That is basically the type of actor that we created. That we say like, oh, that type of thing is the thing that can change the material. Basically, can change that will change the material basically. And then or like it's more like this is the type of object that they will receive. We can still edit it. For example, we need to click this instant editable and also expose on spawn. So this will this will make it editable when we duplicate this blueprint class as an instance into the level. Everything that the blueprint like every time if we drag this into the scene, it's always an instance. It's never the thing itself. So this is our trigger box, and then if you search target mesh, oh, trigger demo. Oh, yeah, sorry. You need to compile this. I forgot about that. And then save it. And then you can see the target mesh here. It's not selecting anything. But we can select something within the scene as the target mesh. So let's see the drop down menu, and now it does have an option. That is BP changing, basically this thing. We can also rename it as like and yeah, I'll just name it weird sculpture, and now you can see the name change to weird sculpture. So let's select that. So this will be the thing that will change the material later on. And then let's go back to the blueprint here. So we are going to edit this mesh. So let's first of all create the material, the effects that when our hand is overlapping with this, and then it will change the material of this object. Let's say I'm gonna move it here so that it's a little more straightforward. Okay, so let's select this box first. Keep this box selected, and then in the event graph, this is the event graph. Select this, and then right click. You can see that it says add event for box, which is this box basically. And then under the drop down here in the collision, type in add on component begin overlap. So this will be our first our first node, and then this will basically detect any component that goes into the box, basically the trigger box basically. And then for debugging, you can try you could just use your mouse to hover on this and then drag out. We can do a print string. So all of these nodes, you can see they have different colors. These different colors represent different data type. So for example, blue usually means object, and then these kind of like blue green means integer. The red means boolean, and then so they all have different color coding for them. But you can see that we also have this white arrow. This white arrow means the execution, basically the sequence of executing the operations. So when it has the white button, that means that this is the key functions that it's gonna go from this to here. Whereas, for example, if I just drag it here, this get function, get target mesh, is just getting the value of the variable, but it's not gonna run by itself unless it's attached to one of the block that have a white arrow, and also the white arrow is light up, which means it's connected by this trigger, which is on component begin overlap. For example, this trigger means that uh, like any functions that goes behind it and connected to it will only start when this condition is being triggered, which means if anything get overlaps into this box, basically if anything sort of like exists within the area of this box, that means overlap. So the print string means it will print something onto the screen, whether it's in VR or in the viewport that you're seeing. So if we compile that, and then in the level viewport here, we can just simulate this level, and then I'm just gonna I'm just gonna move some random things. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm gonna move this grabbable actors on top of uh this thing so that it's always gonna be dropping into this collision box. And then simulate that. And then you can see on the top left here, it says begin overlap. So that means it worked. This begin overlap is indeed triggered. Print string is a very useful function that could be used whenever we're debugging anything or we're not sure which function is not working. It's kind of like when you're in websites, it's the console log, and then in Arduino, it's also the serial print, etc. So I want to quickly talk about in terms of the how part. So basically, the beginning is the overlap, and then how do we because our goal is to detect that there's our hand is overlapping with the trigger box. So the next thing we need to figure out is that uh is the incoming thing our hand. This we can use a technique basically detecting whether it has a tag. We can put a tag on our hand so that it knows that, oh, this is the thing that we're looking for. And if it's true, Then we will grab the we will go to set the material. But then we need to know what material to set. So it will ask for what material. Basically, we can get material, or we can just set up directly within this block, and then basically kind of like this logic. So so now we'll go to other actor, or actually I think it's other component. Sorry. Yeah, the overlapped component. So let me quickly explain what each of these are. Overlapped component means this thing that get overlapped. So which is this box itself basically, and then because it's a collision box, and then other actor means if there is another actor that comes in, and then other component is basically any component that's under an actor. That other means the thing that comes in, the thing that is overlapping this box, basically the other thing that comes in. So because our hand is actually a component under what we call a VR spawn, which is comes with the VR template. Um, VR pawn, sorry, VR pawn. So this is the VR pawn, and then this, like, I already changed a couple of things here. I will talk about what I changed. It's not gonna look exactly the same as yours, but basically, for example, like all of these are all component. So the tags that we're putting is under a component instead of on the VR pawn itself. So we will do other component, and then has tag. Component has tag, which means does the component has some kind of tag, and the tag, we can just name it as VR hand, let's say. And then yeah, the return value is a boolean value, so basically is it true or not. So we can drag this out, and then we search branch. So branch will basically is basically a if statement. If it is, then do what else, then do something else. If it is, then we can say if it's true, set material oh no, we'll target mesh actually. Let's I forgot about it a little bit. Set material. Oh yeah, set material target mesh to material. Still set material. Oh, but I guess yeah, like we need to change this part. So we need to delete. You just search set material, and then we delete this box part. Instead, we put in get target mesh. So get the variable of this target mesh, and then under here the target is under target static mesh. So static mesh is the component that actually has can be set material on, and then you set material. So the material, you can just select a random material right now. For example, let's uh well, let's select this, like a pure red, let's say. So that's basically it. Yeah, and then we compile it. Let's test this out. Oh yeah, sorry. We need to, right now we're using this as a test, so this grabbable items is just our stand-in. So let's under the detail here search. Make sure I'm recording. Yeah. Yeah, I'm recording. Let's search tag. Oh, sorry. It's under the component actually. You need to select the static mesh and then search tag under the component tag. Write VR hand. I mean, just as our testing, because we're gonna put VR hand tag somewhere else, and then let's oh, nice. Now you see it's being triggered. So the next question is we need to apply this to our VR mesh actually. So as you can see, the VR pawn. Actually, I need to move this back now, since it's done with its job. Okay, but as you can see that right now the VR pawn, oh, it's also doing it. Oh, because yeah, I already said it before. Anyway, so basically what you need to do is you go to VR pawn, search VR pawn. Probably you need to search it under content so that you can find it because it's in the VR template. And go to VR pawn. You want to create under the motion controller left grip. You will add a sphere collision. You add a sphere collision, which if you double click this, it kind of looks like this. You can adjust its size if you want, make it bigger or smaller. Yeah. So, and then I will also put a sphere collision under the motion controller grip right. And then under the collision here, you will type in tag, and then it will say component tag, and then put VR hand in there. And then you will compile it too. Save all of them. I will save all of them. Oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. So now, as you see, that's the VR pawn. Yeah. Now with the controller, basically, like I just didn't preview it in VR preview, but the hand here is triggering this thing. But now you can see that when I leave, it's not like changing its material back. So we can also add an exit effect. So the same thing goes here. Select this and then right click, add event for box. We have begin overlap, and then we also have end overlap. So the end overlap is a little bit easier. We just need a set material basically. Set material, and then we also want to set the target mesh material, but we want to set it to whatever material that it originally have, and after it being changed, the material it already have is also changed, so we kind of want to store that material beforehand. So we will basically store that material as a variable as the game plays. So what we would do is we'll create a new node called get material, and then you could just select that one, and then we remove the box one. Instead, we'll get the target mesh material, the target mesh, the static mesh in the target mesh material. And then under the return value, which it will return an object that is a material, we will drag it out, and then we can just see promote to variable. You click that, and then now here it's automatically create a variable for you, and then you could just say original material. By the way, the naming principles here is basically if you name it the new word starts with a capital word, and then if you name each word with a capital cap word in the beginning, it will automatically split it in half, like split it with a space in between when it's being displayed. So we set the variable, and then we will connect that event begin play, which is this event will begins whenever this actor begins, and then we connect that. So whenever it begins playing, it will set the original material. And now we can use this, get this material original mesh. Oh, sorry, I actually should original material. Yeah, original material, and then connect this to the material selection. So now we have all of the functions blueprint ready, and let's test it out. So, oh, hold on. Oh, sorry, I wasn't playing. Let's simulate it again. Now it's triggering it, and upon leaving, yeah, upon leaving, it's set back to the original material. Yeah. So that is basically how you can set up your first blueprint, customized blueprint, and then have it do something for you. And with this, basically with this logic, there's a lot of things you can do with it. For example, instead of changing, basically you can just change whatever that goes after this branch true. Instead of setting materials, you could also set different meshes. You could also kind of like set its scale. For example, you can if you just drag the static mesh out, there's a lot of things that you can do with it. For example, transformation. You can add transform. You can add world transforms. For example, if I add world rotation, just connect that, and let's say I just rotate it 90 degrees, and then I'll also rotate it. Well, that's okay. I'll do it later. I was gonna say I can also rotate it back. But I think it might be kind of funny if I just like let it keep rotating. Oh yeah. So now you can see it rotating. Actually, it kind of works because it rotates 90 degrees at itself. So now it's just keep rotating because of that. So you can play around with all kinds of effects that you want to make this target do. Yeah, and then so basically just keep in mind that um, this decides what is the thing that you are changing. In the sense that and then you can after this you can connect it to whatever nodes and then say what you want to do, but remember to connect the execution flow so that it actually do the things for you. So that is today's demo, and I hope you can have some fun with it. Um, the last thing I will remind you is that I do a simulation here, but when it's being when it's simulating, and then you change anything, it's not gonna be saved. For example, this position just goes back. So always change things while you're not simulating. When you're simulating, you can see this box also goes orange. So that's reminding you that you're playing the game instead of being in the production mode. Okay, so enjoy. I'll see you in the next demo video.